Everyone, welcome to the webinar on Indian Renewable Open Access Landscape. We have published a report about the same topic and the presentation is nothing just about explanation of the same. The report can be downloaded from our website and we will post the link on the chat here for anybody and everybody to access. The flow would include the introduction to Tata Cleantech Capital, open access market landscape, the financing structure, state ranking, and way forward. First, Tata Cleantech Capital is part of Tata Group, a group which does not require any introduction, a group which is a leading conglomerate with an institutionalized focus on philanthropy and which is known for pioneering initiatives ahead of its time. And one such initiative is incorporating Tata Cleantech Capital to focus on climate finance. Tata Cleantech Capital or TCCL is a joint venture between Tata Capital and International Finance Corporation. This is the India's first and only climate finance institution. It has been opened with a mandate to fight climate change in emerging economies. Typically, in these economies, there is the lack of capital because globally in the developed countries, these climate change initiatives is taken by the public money. But in the emerging economies, such capital doesn't exist and hence the need for such an institution as TCCL. What we do is focus on three kinds of services. One is project finance, debt syndication, and advisory. The company has been the first private sector entity to partner Green Climate Fund to mainstream and develop the rooftop solar market in India. It is the first Indian entity to join Global Green Bank Network, and it is also rated AAA by CRISIL. So far, we have financed more than 10 gigawatt of renewable capacity, which is responsible for mitigating more than 15.8 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. We operate in all clean tech sectors, including utility scale solar, wind, distributed solar, power transmission, water, energy efficiency, electric mobility, etc. Now, open access market landscape. If we look at the various procurement options for the commercial and industrial consumers, typically it starts with the state distribution companies, where the generators sell it to the state distribution companies, which in turn, through regulatory processes, sell it to the consumers. There's other option to buy it through exchange. And third is through this open access market, which we are going to discuss about. And the fourth is the behind the meter options. In this behind the meter option, you have rooftop solar or large captive coal or diesel power plants. With entry of renewable, the landscape has been changed dramatically over the time. In India, the Electricity Act 2003 paved the way for open access market. Before that, it was all distribution companies who had the monopoly in India's transmission and distribution segment. But in this transmission segment, it opened with Electricity Act recognizing open access as a separate business segment. For this followed by electricity rules and national tariff policy. Subsequently, the exchange mechanism got introduced, and now the green exchange mechanism is also over there, which is adding to more and more bits in the open access segment. But despite all of that, open access market is still in a very, very nascent stage. Just to put the market, put the numbers in context, in overall numbers, total installed capacity through open access reflects only 9% in the renewable landscape. Of the total power supply arrangement in the country, IPPs and central generators through long-term arrangement supply 91% of the total power. Through exchange or over the counter, it is still in the single digits. This is despite the fact that commercial and industrial consumers account for more than 60% of total power consumed in the country. Now, the business models still evolving. This business models is evolving for good. If we look at wind has achieved cost parity with conventional power some time back. And with that, their bilateral arrangement has evolved. But in solar, this kind of thing wasn't available until financial year 14 or 15 that we are talking about. During that time, renewable energy certificate or REC based projects were being set up in India, in which people were selling the power at either APPC or at a smaller tariff and trying to recover balance through renewable energy certificate, a market which is now largely being defunct. This moved to bilateral arrangement predominantly with eruption of good policies with states such as Karnataka. But after Karnataka came into the being, it's not just Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, they all came out with good policies. Karnataka topped the chart, followed by Tamil Nadu and then Gujarat, Maharashtra opening up. This bilateral arrangement started taking the entire market share. Now, market is moving towards a more matured model of exchange-based trading. In developed market, typically, most of the power is traded through this exchange-based mechanism or over-the-counter trading mechanism. Now, this is something which is still being developed. However, in FY21, we have seen the first project being coming into the total reckoning. In overall share, wind is more or less remained placid. With technological advancement, solar has taken over the cost on the cost competitiveness index. With that, the total installation, if you check on the chart on the right, the solar has accounted for the lion's share in total open access installation. But with the exchange business model which is emerging, why exactly is it the right time for the exchange-based business models to emerge? If we look at that, exchange-based market pricing trend is at the sweet spot right now. It's between the tariff, because solar tariffs have fallen to ridiculously low level. Between that level and that of the APPC, that's where lies the exchange traded curve. The exchange is trading at somewhere between the lower side of this line, the lower side of this line, which is APPC, and the higher side of this line, which you get by selling to Discom in this 25-year trend. But this is not really the realized tariff. For sellers, you still have to bear some cost. To do it, the same thing is with the buyers. Buyers have to account for all other charges as well. And that's where exchange is little tricky to account for. Coming on to the open access, different kind of charges, which we are just talking about. Here, all the charges are very well defined under the regulatory books, but their predictability or certainty for long duration defines the market as how it's going to shape. In transmission charges or distribution charges, and indeed their losses, they are very, very predictable charges. Their impact lies between low to medium, sometimes to on the higher side for transmission charges. But still, since it is predictable and certain and can be certainly, if I'll put it, it can be predicted with certainty. That makes it very easy to account for. But the cross subsidy surcharge or additional surcharge, they account for the very lion's share in the total charges, and that's where things gets very tricky. To account for it, for that cross subsidy and additional surcharge, a trick which people have applied is the evolution of group captive model. Generally, this captive model was allowed for selling power, in which you can buy your own power by using the transmission line. You can buy the power from your own power plant. But in this group captive model, a developer can set up this plant, have part equity, and part equity can be owned by the consumer, and they can still claim the benefits under the captive model under this scheme. Under this, 26% has to be bare minimum held by the consuming companies. With this, the cost subsidy and additional surcharge can be addressed, and this is the model which is the most prevalent now in the open access sector. But after that, there is one more challenge of banking charges. This banking charges, it's not something which is the quantum of it which affects, but the reality, what really will impose as the banking restriction counts as the real charge parameter, and quantifying it becomes very, very difficult, and charge can range from low to very, very high. I'll just show about it in the next charts. Cross subsidy surcharge has been a very tricky subject to define. It changes every year in most of the states, and so does the additional surcharges. transmission charge and transmission and wheeling losses, they are very, very easy to predict. If we look at the banking charges, it's not very high. Furthermore, even with this level, it's not very, it has been remained mostly stable across most states. But where the challenge lies is that both solar and wind, they are infirm in nature. Because of this infirm nature of solar and wind, they are not able to meet the requirement of the demand at the time of consumption itself. And hence, they lose out for this dispatchable power, which is coal or gas. And they depend on the grid to bank this power to be used later. But if they are not allowed to do this banking facility, then this entire power could get lost. And that's where this banking can become very, very tricky when you're talking about the viability of open access projects. This cross subsidy surcharge, otherwise, if we ignore banking, is accounting for around half of the total charges. And if you add the additional surcharge to it, they account for over 2/3 of the charges. But under the national tariff policy, this cross subsidy surcharge has been capped at 20% of your base tariffs. But most states are yet to follow that. And as you can see, only a few states such as Gujarat, and Gujarat has followed it for across the segment, and so has Haryana. But for others, this is not the case. Furthermore, there are changes across the state which creates the problem. This changes typically happens because DISCOMs are not happy with this open access arrangement, and because of it, there is consistent resistance from their side. There are challenges which we have seen in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. But on top of it, when we look at it, Haryana is the latest example of what all can go wrong for open access projects if state DISCOMs or regulators are not cooperating. With that particular thing, it is becoming more and more important to realize that for growth of this segment, what is required is the regulatory certainty, how exactly it can be done for. And with this regulatory certainty, this can be seen, the capacity addition is largely dependent on the policy landscape when it came about giving for the long-term duration. Karnataka gave exemption for 10 years flat, and because of it, Karnataka is now the leading state. Tamil Nadu gave the exemption for 5 years at that time. However, they have proposed very good surcharge benefits for the plants which have been operating. And that's why it is the second largest state, followed by others. Karnataka, when it announced, that was the time when installations have seen a large spike. But that spike died down the moment the exemptions have been withdrawn. But if you look at the player landscape, what has really happened alongside with Karnataka is that the emergence of business model has shifted to bilateral and utility scale focused and C&I focused companies have started emerging and dominating the market. Until FY16, largely the Indian corporates were the ones which were installing the open access plants on an opportunistic manner rather than a long-term vision inside. Post that, from FY17, when this Karnataka based or Karnataka started giving the exemption, so does the Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, more and more companies in the C&I and utility scale focused companies which had the long-term vision started operating in this segment. And this particular share started increasing on a year-on-year basis. And if we look at the total installed capacity share as of December 2020, a utility scale company C&I focused companies and utility scale focused companies are accounting for more than 43% of total market share. That after starting with a very narrow base of little low teens in FY16. In the player landscape, once again, the same picture is emerging. The utility focused companies and C&I focused companies are the ones which are in the top ranking categories. In this ranking categories, the government PSUs were not considered. But the C&I focused companies are the ones which are leading more and more as compared to the utility focused companies from FY19, 2021. Just to make it more clear, C&I focused companies are those which are predominantly focusing on the C&I consumers. The utility focused companies are those which have primary focus on the bidding of or the utility scale bidding which SECI, NTPC or the state discoms comes out with. But they opportunistically focus on some of the C&I opportunities as well, but it's not their main focus area. Coming on to the financing structure. The risk perception, if we look for the open access projects, the risk perception is higher for it. And what are the main reasons for it? It's the size, which is smaller for open access projects, and land acquisition and execution delays are not so high. But at the same time, the scale and operation benefits, the asset and performance, grid access and congestion becomes the downside of it. But that's just the project parameter. The moment we talk about from the operational parameters and go to the off-taker, if we for this particular analysis, we are considering only SECI and NTPC. The payment from SECI and NTPC is very, very regular. And if you compare it with the open access, larger C&I players, AAA can compare very well, AA plus, maybe, but below that, that becomes a more and more challenging process. Under contract renegotiation, once again, the case around Andhra Pradesh is not being considered for this particular case, and largely with the state protection and assuming that the regulators ultimately come to their senses along with court, and if the order comes in their favor, the contract renegotiation will be put to rest. If that being the condition, then this contract renegotiation risk is very low in the utility scale discom PPAs. The tenure is good. The regulatory certainty is also being provided for a longer duration. With that, the perceived risk for the open access projects is on the higher side. And because of it, if you look at the market share of the lenders in this particular space, in utility scale, largely there is presence of MNC banks and bonds in the other spaces, but in open access, it's the private NBFCs which are dominating with more than 50% market share. And the reason is higher agility, domain expertise, and monitoring framework. Because most of these parameters or the risk perception, as we mentioned in the last slides, require either the agility or the domain expertise or the monitoring framework to address. The state ranking, that is the key piece of the analysis. This is about which are the key states which are going to rank higher in the coming time, or rather in the next 1 to 2 years. This is the focus time. How we did this assessment is based on the following 6 parameters. First is the regulatory certainty and the framework, the point which is I have been harping around for so long. Second, certainty of the exemptions, if at all they are there. Even if they are not there, what is the overall savings that the consumer is going to get? That with the certainty for a longer duration. Third, what is the DISCOM's intent and its financial health? Can it really affect the project going forward? Fourth, procedural hurdles. Even if all the things are written on paper, but how comfortable are DISCOMs giving that kind of permissions in writing? Fifth is the overall market size. Even if everything is good, the market should still be there for you to go ahead and install the project. Sixth are the other factors, including land availability, renewable ecosystems, the evacuation infrastructure, etc. With that parameter in mind, the state ranking for next 1 to 2 years in open access project includes first being Gujarat, second being Maharashtra, third being Uttar Pradesh, and these are the 3 states which we believe will be the top 3, followed by Karnataka, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh. 7th would be Tamil Nadu. Now, bulk of the capacity addition in open access would be focused around these 7 states. The others, whether it's 8, 9, 10 or 11, the open access market is very, very minuscule, and any capacity addition would be mostly opportunistic rather than anything on the back of a long-term view. What's the way forward for the open access market? First is the exchange-based market model evolution. This multiple kind of innovations are happening with the green term ahead market coming into the being, and they're also talking about the contract for differences, which is anyways highlighted in the report. You can look into it. The second is the storage-based projects. With storage-based projects, the precise matching of demand profile can mitigate the banking risk. You can take advantage of tariff arbitrage under the time of the date slots. The revenue stream can be created with the ancillary market, for which anyways the draft guidelines have already been issued. The proposed amendments to Electricity Act. Now, this could be a complete game changer. This is yet to be tabled though, but if these amendments do come, there are multiple parameters here which can change the game. First is the determination of cross subsidy surcharges. That 20% cap, if it comes, then it will be a big boom for the consumers and the market in general. Second, tariff determination for the consumers. At this particular point of time, the tariff has to be determined on the actual cost of the discoms, and the subsidies has to be borne by the state governments. If that is the case, distribution companies are anyways able to recover the cost through legitimate means. Their resistance against the C&I consumers going away on the open access means will go away, and they will be indeed able to turn profitable. The procedural hurdles would also reduce. Regulatory framework could improve. That Electricity Amendment Act is talking about bolstering the APTEL and talking about increasing penalties for non-compliance. What that will entail is that this regulatory certainty can really address the policy flip-flops, and as we have just seen in our other charts about what can happen for the state flip-flops. RPO implementation. At this point of time, RPO is not really enforceable, but if the penalty do comes into the picture, then more and more people are bound to buy the open access power. Now, with this, I want to introduce you to our panel. We have a very revered panel today, the industry veterans which are operating in this space. Alok Verma, he is the Vice President of Amplus Solar, has looked at the regulatory regime for all the states in open access for a very long period of time. Shri Prakash Rai, he is a Senior Director and Head C&I Business at AMP Energy India, one of the emerging companies in open access domain, and Shri Prakash is heading the business side of the entire open access segments. Tarang Bhatt, he heads the open access market and hybrid for Fourth Partner Energy. He was the Chief Operating Officer for Harsha Abacus, which was looking into the open access project development from a very earlier stage of times. With that, I give to our moderator, Mr. Pankaj Sindhwani. He is the Chief Business Officer of Tata Cleantech Capital. Pankaj, over to you.
Thank you, Mudit. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pankaj Sindhwani, and I'm the moderator for today's panel discussion on Indian renewable open access landscape. We have an excellent panel comprising Alok Verma from Amplus, Shri Prakash from AMP Energy, and Tarang from Fourth Partner Energy. Even as we speak, impacts of extreme weather events are being felt across the globe. Heat waves in US, Canada, Europe, and many parts of Asia are reeling under those impacts. Within India, we are now seeing 500% increase in yearly extreme weather events. These events are impacting large majority of us in one way or the other. India remains one of the most vulnerable countries to the effects of climate change. So India has taken up aggressive targets to combat climate change. One big aspect of these commitments is 450 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And within this target of 450 gigawatt, Indian corporates and Indian renewable energy developers are playing a very important role, specifically in terms of procuring green energy through open access route. Total solar capacity set up under open access route is roughly 3 gigawatt, which in isolation seems large. But when you compare it with utility scale capacities, it is just a small fraction. So what changes are in offing? How can open access renewables play a more meaningful role in India's energy transition? What policy changes would industry need to make a quantum leap? To talk about all of this and more, let me now turn to our panelists. Alok, let me turn to you first. Amplus is one of the early entrants in the CNI open access space. What's been your experience thus far? What do you see, changing in policy landscape at center and states, and how do you think it impacts Amplus? Over to you, Alok.
Yeah, sure, Pankaj. So we entered in the business of open access with Karnataka, and then Karnataka, that was the state where we did our first open access project, and subsequently we moved to the Andhra Pradesh. We tried to do similar projects in Haryana. We are doing projects in Chhattisgarh and Uttar Pradesh as well. So in terms of so now one thing which Modit also rightly pointed out, and that is also very well captured in the report itself, that open access business, it is very much exposed to the regulatory changes, because the entire set of businesses depend on the regulation. So one is the policy, then there is a regulation, and then there are the subsequently procedure and the orders. Now, with our experience, what we have seen, the like when we were doing project in Karnataka. So Karnataka has been a state where the developers have been provided a long-term visibility, the regulatory visibility. So regulatory visibility, let me bucket it into different put it this thing, break it, the regulatory certainty in different buckets. So when we say regulatory, one is the certainty of the charges. Basically, that is very much required to make our project viable. I mean, viable is the product itself. Just to understand what will be the cost of the product to the end consumer itself. The second is a supporting mechanism, one like banking, facility of banking and some incentive like waiver of open access charges or cross subsidy and all. And third is the operational parameters, operational like scheduling and forecasting and how the the energy accounting and settlement will be done. So with our experience, what we have seen, Karnataka has been one of the state which has been uh, given the visibility to the investors, and that's the reason, maybe that's the reason we are seeing a lot of open access projects happen in the state. But in other state, when we go to the Andhra Pradesh, there was a policy when the Karnataka and the Andhra Pradesh, and for that matter, even Telangana, I mean, both were used to the same. So they started, they wanted to promote at the same time. I would say in 2014 was where the investment started coming in Karnataka, and 1 year later in Andhra Pradesh, again they came up with a very progressive policy where certain waived and a good supporting mechanism was provided in their policy, and the regulation were also echoing the provision of the policy. But with time, as the open access started making its penetration in the sector itself, the regulatory scenario in Andhra Pradesh started changing. So there was a policy which offered like banking, waiver of the charges and all. But later on, the new policy came, and it retrospectively withdrawn the facility of banking, take out the charges, the waiver which was given. So that was, we'd say, a major setback even for us. We had a great plans for the Andhra as well. We wanted to do a large scale investment there as well, but that was a setback to us. Then let me take you to the Haryana. I mean, Haryana, we all understand all the part. I mean, everybody was there, and everybody was very keen to make investment in the state. The policy was very promising, very innovative, not innovative, very supportive. The regulations are also in line with the policy. They were also designed in such a way that they were taking a very balanced approach. Initially, there was a 500 megawatt of a cap allowed for the incentive and all, and that's the reason. I mean, people started investing in the land. When we also set up our project, it was like in a very fast track mode. But there was a different. I mean, there was a regulatory certainty provided to the investor. But later on, they went on changing it retrospectively, and we all know where the Haryana stands today. And still now, I mean, as of now, there is a policy, there is a draft policy, which was a supportive mechanism for the open access, but at the same time, there are regulations which are totally different from what policy is saying, draft. So there is no visibility, I would say, in terms of Haryana. So that's how, like, from the big, and then we have UP. UP is just started, like 2 years back. We did our first project. That was the first project in the state. And in Chhattisgarh, we have just completed our first open access projects. That is also the very first open access solar projects in the state itself. So initially, what we have seen there was an intent among the authorities to give the long term visibility, and gradually with time, when there was a different model of open access started evolving, the certainty was almost we saw that there has been a very sudden shift, which in the certainty, the regulatory certainty which was given to the developer. So that's how we have been looking at it. Still, we are struggling for our existing projects, existing investments. So we are, working with the people where in some part we see there is a to bring the long-term certainty for our investment. But that's the harsh truth. So one way we want to increase the investment in the sector, and open access, we understand electricity is a very critical component for any industry, a core component, and any reduction in the electricity definitely going to reflect in the outcome, the end product cost, or the expanding base of the other industries in the particular state. Having said all these things, the there is a lack in the basic infrastructure, I mean the basic uh, in the basics itself for open access. So that's how we have seen that the industry, the regulatory regime has, it's with Karnataka, it was at the peak. Now we see it's somewhere in, like, going up and down. That sort of that's our experience with so our experience so far.
Sure. Thanks, Alok. Shri Prakash, let me turn to you now. You just heard Alok. Your experience has been any different? Do you think your strategy was any different, or the way you dealt with it would have been any different given the challenges that you just explained? Tell us more about your journey.
Yeah. So right now, while I'm speaking, we have operational projects in 3 states, open access in the Karnataka, Maharashtra, and UP. And obviously, what Alok mentioned, Karnataka, I think, was the mother state with the open access policy being so friendly. And in fact, most of the states have taken a leaf out of Karnataka, and they have modified according to the specific requirement. So in fact, in Karnataka also, while the projects were commissioned within the control period, there was a order which was placed where the the banking charges and the open access charges were to be made effective from the retrospective basis. But almost, I think, all the developers, they've actually gone there and taken the shelter of law, and all of them were on the right side, and we are able, as of now, while we are talking, it is on hold. But yeah, still there was a panic which was created when they mentioned that the charges will be put on the retrospective basis. Having said that, till date, the journey as far as Karnataka is concerned is good, at least in the third party. Now we are developing group captive and captive projects both in Karnataka, so we hope the same scenario will prevail as it is. But the most interesting thing is what we faced in Haryana, because Haryana, almost all the developers who are active in the C&I space were looking forward for Haryana to open up the open access market, because obviously it would have created a huge market. And in fact, the glimpses were absolutely fine. 2018-19, the solar policy and the regulations were pro open access. And in fact, since they have put in the cap of 500 megawatt, the serious developers, they actually put in a lot of investment in the state, buying the land, going for the financial closure, signing the PPAs and all. And in fact, some of the developers actually who got the final connectivity went ahead and constructed the plant. Some of the developers who got in principle connectivity waited for eternity to get the final connectivity agreement signed, but unfortunately things did not materialize, and finally I think the offer is to if you want to develop the project, you develop and sell the power to the DISCOM. So which is obviously is not a very pleasant experience for any company, and that too when the equity investment and all that is coming from overseas investor, it creates a doubt in the mind of the equity investor, and also lenders like Tata Cleantech, whether the policy stability will be there. But having the experience of Haryana, they've moved to UP, where they were one step ahead than all the other states, where they actually identified the substations. They specifically mentioned the capacity which is available in the substation, and the allocation was done on a first come first serve basis. So although in the first phase developers were a bit cautious, as were we, but as things move forward, there was a lot of comfort which we were able to draw from the policy, and also how it was implemented on the ground. But having said that, once you get your projects operational, then some ambiguity comes in. Like as of now, there is the banking facility is available, but when you actually talk about the settlement and withdraw, how you will be able to avail banking, still the various departments are not very clear. And unfortunately, for any clarification, since it's a new state, the departments actually want developer to go to the regulatory commission to get a further clarification on that. That actually kills a lot of time, and in fact the things which could usually be resolved in maybe in a week or 15 days time usually takes months. So, but having said that, since it's a new state, the policy is under development. So we almost all the developers are hopeful that it will get streamlined maybe in 6 months time. And the regulators have also given some favorable orders, like about the part commissioning, because the commissioning procedures, all that which has been defined here, is very different as compared to the commissioning procedures prevalent in the various states. But commissions are understanding the issues which developers are facing, and I think everybody is hopeful maybe in 6 months time or an year's time, whatever the available gap is there in the policy will be filled in, and as it has been captured in the Modit's report here, maybe in next 2 years it will be one of the key states where we will see a lot of open access projects happening. And in fact, I'll just take one more minute. In fact, the states which we all were concerned was Maharashtra, where all the developers were apprehensive whether they will be allowing open access as a project. I think our experience was absolutely great in Maharashtra. There were some initial hindrances, but once we started the project, even on the commissioning part and getting the till the medium term open access, everything is fine, and they are following a set of procedures. So overall, if I see the experience of AMP, except from Haryana, all the other states who have actually come up with the open access policy, they were more or less in line. There are teething issues. There will be teething issues in every new states where we go in. But it's important for developer and also the C&I consumer to actually persist and try to fill in the lacuna which is there in the policy. And I'm pretty optimistic regulators will definitely understand the type of investment which the developers are putting in the state. So, so it's been quite a satisfactory experience as far as the open access policy in the states are concerned.
Sure. Thanks, Sri Prakash. You and Alok both talked about your experiences in certain states, specifically Haryana and now in Maharashtra. I would come back to you and understand more as to how you kind of anticipate some of these challenges beforehand. Now that you have this experience, is it possible for you to anticipate, what is coming next? And then, is it any is there any way that you could balance or anticipate the concerns of a DISCOM also? How is it that you can do that? I'll come back to you with some of those questions in the next round. But let me now turn to Tarang. Thank you, Tarang, for patiently waiting. So yes. Just wanted to check your thoughts on what's been your experience, and more importantly, do you have any hopes arising out of the Electricity Amendment Act, which is now being tabled? Do you think any major changes coming out of that, which will help the open access industry as such? Over to you, Tarang.
Yeah. First of all, what we understood from Sri Prakash and Alok both, and as well as your report. First of all, we need to understand open access market, why we have lots of inconvenience in various states as a developer, as an investor, as well as we are facing the biggest problems in terms of the regulatory point of view, then attitude of the people on towards the us who are interested in the open access market. So basically, the open access people, utility, they are thinking that we are their enemies in the other way, because if directly we are impacting on their profit. So that is the main reason. If you see, they are not cooperative in terms of the major states, but in the other few states, if you see, who really understand the business or the DISCOM, I can say financially very strong people in that particular DISCOM, they know very well how to give the balance between the open access or solar investment in the particular state without disturbing the balance sheet of the DISCOM. So this is a very tricky and very it is, I can say, for the India, it is very important for every DISCOM to understand how you can balance your balance sheet versus you allow and promote the renewable energy, because there are pro and cons for the renewable energy also. Like renewable energy in the peak time when the DISCOM really need a high consumption, we are not able to give the power. Okay. So in that condition, they are not able to stop any thermal or hydro. So their fixed cost is always continue. So there always, whenever you are going to any state, approach to anyone, they suppose renewable is like time being things and we are not getting benefit out of that. So why we should promote you? So that question every investor is facing with the DISCOM guys and that all. My point is, like why the Gujarat and Maharashtra are number 1 and 2, because they have a clear vision on their policy. Their tariff orders are GRC and MERC tariff orders are very clear. Any person who is even not from industry, but he has a sound knowledge of finance, he can also work out the charges and everything from the order. And that orders are for 5 years. So if as an investor, if today I am planning for say 100 megawatt project to any state for open access, the entire cycle of that 100 megawatt is 24 months, right? Starting from the fundraising to the last your off-taker commissioning. If you consider the timeline is approximate 24 months. So we need a security of that in this particular 24 months or time, or maybe 18 months or 36 months, depend on your investment portfolio. There should not be any uncertainty in terms of the regulatory, in terms of the charges and that all thing. So that confidence you are getting in Gujarat, you are getting in Maharashtra, you are getting in Karnataka. But rightly said this, you are not getting in Haryana. Sometime in MP, sudden changes are coming. Tamil Nadu, sudden changes are coming. ED exemption coming, not it's sometime removed. So the basic is in open access market have a good future in India, subject to there should be some standardization on the policy matters. Some like all the charges of every discom have a similar things, like only thing because of there is a state wise, so it's called a state discom. But if you see the operational practices of Gujarat or Maharashtra or any state, or the infrastructure development, almost same. So whatever the charges they are putting is almost same, except wherever there is no industry or generation is high, that finance complexity is there. But majority, if you consider Rajasthan, western region, southern region, or northern region, then you can fix out their charges. You can give the long-term policy for the promote this kind of open access business, where the problem is not a charges, or problem is not other thing. Problem is uncertainty today that we are facing. Suppose if you have a tariff order for 5 years, after 1 year, the DISCOM will file, the midterm review, and then suddenly they will change the terms. So in just you have invested, like Haryana, the people has faced. In other state also like happening. Sometime it's cross subsidy, additional increase, decrease. So these all things need to be standardized, and definitely growth is there. And slowly, I think Gujarat, Maharashtra, who are the mature discom, they realize कि we are not enemies of them. We are their partner, and we are also supporting. Last GRC hearing, so many people from here also attended, and it was a fair discussion, except these banking charges of 1.5. That was settled down because the people have asked the instead of 50% capacity limitation to 100%, they put the 1.5 rupees banking charges. So because of the balancing the balance sheet. So if you see the tariff orders are very fair for Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, and definitely it will grow. And definitely banking charge will have a issue. The banking will not be allowed by any discom, because definitely it is not for our profit. Because if any banking unit they will consider, that is normally the profit of the either consumer or investor, not discom. So that will be moderate balancing way, like by slot wise, or by every 30 days banking adjustment. So with this, like Gujarat is a very good scenario in terms of banking. Maharashtra is a good thing. So this way, I think market will improve day by day. And second thing is, we want every I can say in other way, as a investor, I want every thing in my one plate, and I have to satisfy that. But unfortunately, because of our every state different policies, actually, we have to few items, good things for one state, few items in other state. So we will never satisfy. So always this blame will come from the investor sides, or is a consumer side. It was our state is not favoring us, or India open access market is not favoring, because of you will never satisfy. So that is my point on that.
Sure. Thanks, Taran. So, Alok, if you're there, let me turn to you now and ask you. You earlier heard that India's overall capacity in open access markets within solar is roughly 3.5 gigawatt, right? And if you compare it with utility scale, it is nothing. We are planning to have 15 to 20 gigawatt coming up every year. So yearly, additional capacity which is coming up in open access is a small fraction of the utility scale one. So if you were to have similar ambitions, so what do you think can be done to scale up the open access market? What do you think needs to be done? All of you talked about state policies and the regulations, but is there anything that is pending on part of developers also? Is there anything that developers also need to do their bit in terms of the scale up happening?
So as a market participants or developer or an investor, right? So we are very much happy to increase our participation. But what like we have been talking about is long-term certainty for making our investment sustainable. So what we have seen, the way things have turned out from the beginning, let's say from 2003, Electricity Act, when it was introduced and the open access was introduced, somewhere the authorities have tried to lift one section of the sector and then neglect the other part. Not neglect, but somewhere there's always have been imbalance. So what we expect or what we look forward to, as an investor or the market participant, industry participants, is the balanced out the approach. So we don't, want everything. We also look forward that things has to be designed such a way. Of course, we want this market to grow, and we see a large potential with new sort of products coming in. But what we look forward is that whatever products, whatever the provisions are being put in place, that has to be done. That has to be done with a balanced approach. So now we have distribution companies, and now we have the open access. The job of the both the things, both the segments are same: supply power. Buyer is controlled by the distribution companies, and there is they see, like what Tarang has also said, they see ourselves as a threat uh, to them, that we are going to take out their revenue and all. So we are very much, keen to work with them, understand their concern, where their concern are coming from, and whatever the possible solutions we can do, we can inbuilt, and that can be done by the authorities in terms of implementing the regulations, coming up with the policy. We are very, very happy to do that. But right now, like when we see there is electricity bill on table that will be proposed monsoon session. So good thing what we see, that there is a the focus on improving the situation of distribution company, and this is where the things are coming. Uh, if their uh, concerns are being well taken in terms of at least the revenue and all, so we are very hopeful that the market will definitely going to improve, and the resistance, the reservation of the discom will be gone. So on these kind of issues, we are always ready to work with, give our inputs as a developer, because we all do understand the concern. Like as a developer, we have a hands-on experience in many states, and we do understand the nature of the issues that distribution companies are facing. So yeah, so there we are very much open, and we are very much keen to work with the people and give our solution, best possible solution. That we have been already doing in past, just to capping the capacity, give the don't give a very open-ended sort of window which can later on turn into haywire the things and create a concern for one segment of the sector, which is the distribution company, transmission company, because of the invariability of intermittent nature and etc. Yeah, so there we already that's what we are very much keen to do, and we have been doing. All of us have been doing it.
Sure. Thank you, Alok. Shri Prakash, you are aware that a lot of Indian corporates have announced their ambitions to go net zero, right? It is also a fact that today, landed cost of green power is cheaper than the cost of power that they buy from the grid. So naturally, there is a reason for corporates to prefer green electricity. One, because it is advantageous for them economically, and second, also because it is green. Now, if corporates want it, right, Indian government wants it, is it not possible to just sit with policymakers and other stakeholders, discoms, and understand their viewpoint and see how you can balance their demands versus your demand so that the scale up could really happen?
Yeah. Pankaj, very valid point. In fact, just to mention that now the open access installation is in the range of around 4 to 5 gigawatts. So one thing the existing set of developers have created is they have shown the government yes, this is a substantial capacity which C&I consumers are using to fulfill their power demand. Because if you actually see till 2017-18, it was only one state. So it was at the central level also, the thought was, okay, this policy is only restricted to one of the states and most of the developers are going only in that state. And once that will be done, it's over. But now that after again, the states have started adopting, developers are actually of a very firm view that this is a viable business model. And that is the reason why they've been there has been push from almost all the companies to have an offsite business segment. So and the result is, I think a month back, we were in one of the webinars where the MNRE, IS officials from MNRE were also present, where they were actually saying they are planning to come up with a clear-cut guideline on off-site open access policy, where they are going to actually make certain changes, favorable changes in the open access thing, like reducing the requirement of 1 megawatt and above, and the option of power sourcing and all that. So one thing is very clear. At least we are able to make a niche in the mind of the regulator and also the central government. This segment is going to stay, and it will be the answer for the C&I consumers of getting cheaper power. Now, the important part is we need to actually give this confidence to the DISCOM. Both can coexist. It is not only about one or the other. So because that coexistence nature is very important, and to actually scale up these things, if you see how the grid connected project has also worked upon. Earlier it was the bid ranges were in the range of 20, 30, 50 megawatt. Then the developers actually put forward issues of land acquisition and all that, and that solar park scheme came, where the government was actually giving land, and were able to understood the issues why they are not able to expand. So similar thing is also in case of open access project, because if you actually see in UP, if you want to develop a 50 megawatt project, if you have to acquire 250, 300 acres of land, maybe you have to deal with 150 or 200 farmers because of the land holding and all. So overall, the concept to the commissioning time period, which is envisaged at 9 to 12 months, actually gets extended. So, but these are some of the issues which maybe in due course of time will it's been already been brought to the government's notice. Maybe there might be there are some considerations which they are coming up. Second most important thing, which I think can actually help in expanding offsite capacity, is the ISTS waiver, which initially they actually provided in their first order, where if at all we are developing it for the obligated entry or obligated entity, there will be no transmission charges and all, which in their revised order they restricted only for the SECI NTPC bids. If that thing actually gets implemented also, it will scale up things, because then you are talking about a 200, 300 megawatt single project put in a specific state and giving power to an obligated entity. So obviously as a developer, we need to make step-by-step progress, but the visibility is there, and scaling up will definitely happen. And the third most important thing for any corporate to actually get it into 100% green or net zero is maybe the virtual PPA thing, which has been talked a lot. And in fact, there is also some issue on the derivative contracts of it, but it has been also brought to the notice of the central regulatory thing, which they are working. And if that thing also gets settled, which which looks like it will, so you will see major capacities been put up under the VPPA mode. And then we'll have a substantial presence of an off-site business in India. So maybe next time, maybe after 2 years, when we'll be there in such conference, we'll be talking about a 10 gigawatt plus installation on an annual basis for an off-site thing. And I think we are on the track.
We all look forward to that. Thanks, Shri Prakash. Those were likely to be my next questions, both on VPPA and the other one on the ISTS. Because it is only natural that if you were to expand the scope of open access, transmission needs to be interstate. So Taran, let me come to you. You earlier talked about the banking issue, which typically DISCOMs face. So Gujarat has come up with this hybrid policy where they are allowing open access projects, but only where you are setting up both wind and solar, so that they're able to have a better utilization of transmission infrastructure. Do you see that becoming a norm in more and more states, or you see some bits also coming with storage as we have seen, or some projects also coming with storage as we have seen in some of the utility scale projects?
Definitely, Pankaj. See, earlier open access, like we said, now we reach to 4 to 5 gigawatt every year in the open access market, standalone solar. Now, if we really want to do 10 gigawatt or plus, then and considering the overall balancing approach of viability, discom and everything, so definitely the next improvement is a hybrid because of main peak hours time and wherever the solar is not providing the generation, at that time wind is giving the maximum generation. So if a CUF point of view and your cost point of view, definitely hybrid is the next is a current future, I can say, not the next. And yes, the next thing in the open access you will get after a few years, I think, wind solar hybrid with the battery storage. And once we reach to that level, then definitely we will see, okay, 10 gigawatt plus open access market, you can say, in India easily, because that cost viability as well as the reliability of the renewable power to the particular discom will increase. And that's why then their approach also will change and they will also come forward because their other uh, generation cost will reduce. So that's basically it's like a cycle. So if you every innovation and every new technology development and new ideas of the our technical expert of the renewable industry, this thing will become a mature day by day, and definitely we will see hybrid will be more in next 2 3 years. Like Gujarat, Karnataka is already people are approaching. Investors have already started open access business in Karnataka. Gujarat now everyone is aggressive. Slowly Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu also will boom upon that. And the major problem is for the hybrid. Rajasthan have a very good wind sites, but unfortunately Rajasthan and MP policies are not favoring that much to the open access business. So that definitely need to look into it. So then other two states also will join for the hybrid development.
Sure. Thank you, Tarang. We are almost reaching the fag end of our panel discussion. So unless we have questions from audience, I'll request Mudit to let us know if we have any questions from audience. I'll go to my panelists and ask them, one by one, starting with Alok. If there is one suggestion that they have for the stakeholders.
Pankaj, Alok had the Alok has come back. Okay, Alok had the meeting, so he's late.
Yeah. So I was just about asking if they had one suggestion for any of the stakeholders. It could be policymakers, it could be state governments, it could be financiers like us. If there is one suggestion that they have for stakeholders, what would that be? Maybe we can start with Alok and then Sri Prakash and then Tarang.
So I would say all we need is a long-term visibility to make our investment sustainable. And that is also the concern from, like, even for a lender, that is also the concern, that under what the regime where we are putting our investment, that regime should give the visibility for the life of the project. And that is also the concern for the end consumer, because open access as a business, that is completely, unless there is a consumer and the consumer interests are not taken care of, there is no point of having this business. So for all of us, we essentially need the long-term visibility for our investment. Of course, we have been working on a different products to provide innovative solutions to our customers, and at the same time working with the other stakeholders. But yes, the primary thing is we need the visibility.
Thanks, Alok. Sri Prakash?
Yeah, I'll just add to Alok, long-term visibility along with timelines and a single window approval process. Because there are states where the long-term policy is there, but then there is no timeline. At what timeline will be getting those approval, and also In fact, the departments are not very clear who is going to issue what. So when we are talking about a long-term policy, there has to be a specific time frame and also a single window or a nodal agency which will be coordinating. So that will actually give a clear-cut visibility for the equity investors, for lender, for consumer, right from the day the policy has been announced, the agreement has been signed, connectivity has been signed till the power generation and also the settlement on the electricity bill. Everything is time bound. Obviously, it will create a lot of interest amongst the C&I consumers also, and it will also provide a lot of comfort to lender who actually think I'm not sure how much time will it take for the long-term open access to come, or how much time it will take for bills for the units to get adjusted in the customer's invoice. So I think if that thing comes up, and to scale up things, maybe a clear-cut ISTS guideline and VPPA thing, so that we can actually move from this 3-4 gigawatt to a 10 gigawatt plus addition on an yearly basis.
Thanks, Sri Prakash. Tarang?
Yes, I will touch little bit sensitive point here. See, sustainability and growth of open access business is depend only on all the open access player only practically. Then it will come to DISCOM or regulatory. How I will just try to explain that. Today, average 7 to 8.5 this range every industry tariff is there. And in that, we are working with the PPA, with the private consumers in the group captive arrangement and third party. Then definitely any investor who is doing the open access business, they definitely look for the IRR and a long-term PPA basis. What happened now, everyone who are not able to get the tariff in a particular utility tenders or any other business, everybody is now focusing on the open access business. That's a good. More and more people has to come in open access business. They have to grow, but not with the negative competition. The main problem today, the enemies of the open access business is ourselves only. Why? Because if the one client, if the three parties are going and discussing, okay, we know this is the cost. So what you will do? You cannot reduce the PPA rate. So what the people have started reducing earlier, if you see the open access business, the PPA tenure was of 15 years. Now people are talking on the 10 years. Very few guys, if you see in the market, they started talking about the 5 years. And I heard about typically in the MP that the consumer are asking for the PPA for a 1 year. Why I am discussing this point? Suppose if you have no clarity after 1 year whether you will get the client for PPA or not, then what will the future of your fund which you have invested? So that's why we need to be very clear. If you really any player has to go on a long run basis in this business, definitely the PPA term average we need to consider 10 years. Rate whatever is for your costing, that is up to you. But at least PPA terms of the 10 years we need to stick to in the market. So that's why in consumer mind it will be very clear. Okay, this is a 10-year PPA. Otherwise, people will ask for short term like 3 months, 6 months. In that condition, it will be very risky for every lender to survive.
Thank you so much, Tarang. That was very sensitive but very important point that you touched upon. I think that requires a separate discussion in itself. But on that note, let me thank my panelists, Alok, Sri Prakash, and Tarang, for those wonderful insights, for such candid discussion. We look forward to having you back for some of our next sessions. Thank you so much, and thank you all of our participants also for joining us today. This was our maiden webinar, maiden panel discussion. This is first in our series, and we look forward to welcoming you on our future editions of similar webinars. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you.
Mudit, if you have any final announcements to make, over to you.
No, Pankaj. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.